Welcome to another conversation at the table. My name is Pastor Chad, and I'm the pastor here at the Table Church here in San Benito. Hope you're having a great Tuesday morning. How did your morning start? I know it's a slightly a little warmer than it was yesterday, a little more cloudy today, and I hear the cold weather's on its way. But for today, we got some mild weather, so it's kind of nice. Hope you're having a great Tuesday, and we're here today at a conversation with at the table, and we're talking about God Speaks. This is the book by Allison and Zach Zender. We're working our way through this for the next 30 days, all the way up until Ash Wednesday. 30-day challenge to read your Bible. Now, this is not necessarily a 30-day devotional per se. It is a devotional, but it's not like the kinds of devotionals that you're used to seeing. It's a little more. There's a little more to it than just say what we're used to is like the portals of prayer, where you just got a slight little devotional, and you got a Bible reading. You got this here. It's a very good book. There's a lot to be challenged with in this book for 30 days. And so I encourage you. In fact, today is day number 2 in our calendar, and it's got a section here for the sermon. Our sermon on Sunday, which was this past Sunday, sermon number 1, useful for teaching, or we said it was profitable for teaching. There was a reason why. You'll have to go back to the sermon and listen for that. But useful for teaching, and then there's like sermon notes, like right here. All right? So really, really good devotional. If you want one of these, God Speaks, we got a bunch of them here at the Table Church. We'll give you one. You just stop by here at the office, and we'll make sure that you join us on our 30-day challenge to read the Bible. One of the things that Zach brings up and Allison bring up in this book are some of the stats about Bibles. And I was kind of intrigued by this. And so I want to point this out as we think about what are we supposed to be thinking about today for Tuesday. This is helpful for me too, because I've got this. The stats really are sobering. So did you know that 90% of all Americans have more than one Bible in the home, or have a Bible in the home? 90% of Americans have a Bible in the home. Many, many more of them, of the 90%, many of them have 2 Bibles. In fact, I got multiple Bibles. I'm going to talk about that in a second here. But 90% of Americans have Bibles in their homes. That's an amazing stat. The printing press, when it was invented, Martin Luther, John Calvin, those guys, they all made good use of the printing press. And by the time we got to the Civil War, the American Bible Society was making sure that all the soldiers on both sides had Bibles. And so the Bible is just kind of ubiquitous in our society, American culture. But here's the thing. 90% have Bibles. 11% read the Bible daily. It's probably a little more than like read the Bible weekly. That number goes up a little bit. But 11% read the Bible daily. Fewer than half of Americans, that, by the way, that leads to illiteracy. Fewer than half of Americans know that the first book of the Bible is Genesis. About a quarter of Americans don't know what Easter is about at all. So you've got all these statistics kind of floating out there. The Bible's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in all of our homes. Many of us have more than one Bible, but we're not really reading it on a daily basis. So again, the 30-day challenge, that's why Allison and Zach are saying, hey, look, we should spend some time talking about just reading the Bible, encouraging ourselves and others to read the Bible on a daily basis. And again, we can make this a thing of piety and a standard and a ruler. We don't want to do that either, and we're going to avoid that, and we'll talk more about that in the next few days. But it is a good thing to read our Bibles on a daily basis. When you think about 90% of the American homes that have Bibles, it's kind of like the Bible is in a junk drawer, and we talked about junk drawer Jesus last year, where we've got junk drawers and they got all sorts of stuff that we don't use, stuff that we think we're going to use. Bible tends to be something like that. Like, we'll grab it in a pinch, if we're headed to church or we're headed to a Bible study or whatever, we've got it there. Or if something happens in our lives, we've got it there, and we can just look up a verse, and it helps us with whatever's going on. But it's a habit. We're talking about habits in doing our daily Bible readings, and for most of us, it's not a habit. So our encouragement throughout this study, throughout God Speaks, is to encourage us to think a little more about reading the Bible daily. Now, here's the other thing that is going on in our culture, and I see it quite frequently here, and I don't think this is unique to Deep South Texas or how, where we live here in the RGV, but I do see it, and I think this is true in just about every American context, and that's this. 2026, because of the prevalence of social media and some other things, I don't think there's a perceived need for reading the Bible during the week. In fact, there is kind of this thing where the only Bible we really need for the week is on Sundays. Now, for almost 2,000 years, the church only had the Bible for just the Sunday, church. Especially before the printing press, you certainly didn't have Bibles in the homes. So for most of Christian history, the Bible was a once-a-week thing at church. And we have that here in the States. So that begs the question. So if the church did without the Bible for, 1,500, 1,700 years, then, just because we have a printing press, just because we all have a Bible in our home, does that mean then that it's not enough for the Bible on Sunday? No, we're not saying that per se. The Bible is important on Sundays. We do want that, and it is important. And if we're not getting it on a Sunday, that's the other thing going on here. If you're leaving the Bible for just a Sunday, the stats also tell us, both Gallup and Barna, that regular church going is down to 2 Sundays a month. If you're going to church 2 Sundays a month, then you're a regular churchgoer. Well, that means that you're in the Bible twice a month, 2 Sundays a month for 1 hour. Is that enough? I'm not going to say that it isn't, but at the same time, could it be helpful for us to read the Bible on more than just when we're in church, or being in the Bible more than just we're in church? And I think it is. I do think it is. I do think we are better off if we're making it a habit to read our Bibles daily. For one thing, God speaks through His Word. Now, He speaks sacramentally in the service, and I'm pointing right now at our sanctuary. He speaks to us in the divine service, absolutely, in a sacramental way, in a way that He doesn't the rest of the week. But at the same time, if we're not in the Scriptures on a daily basis, that means we're not hearing God's voice on a daily basis, and that would be a good thing if we did. It's a good thing to hear God's voice multiple times during the week. He has something to say to us. Especially His promises. His promises are life-changing. And the instructions. The instructions help us live an ordered life. So, between the fact that God is speaking His promises to us in His Word and giving us instructions for our lives, I think it's a good thing. I think we should be encouraged to read it on a daily basis. Are we sinning if we don't? That's always the other question. Well, are you saying we're sinning if we don't? No, I'm not saying that. And I know there are evangelical contexts in which you're made to feel like you're sinning if you're not doing this on a daily basis. No, we're not going to go there either. There's this happy medium in between. I think that it's good for us to be in God's Word a little more than once a week on the Sunday. And especially if the regular attendance is 2 times a month, I do think it's good for us to be in the Bible more than 2 times a month. At the same time, don't walk away from this thing. Bresson thinks it's a sin if we don't, because I don't. I just think it's helpful. So I also think if you're going to do this, and I'm encouraging you, that's why we're in this, God Speaks. I think it's good for you and me to get a Bible that's in a format that you enjoy reading. That's something other. We got our phones. I'm in the habit. I read my Bible on my phone all the time. So when I'm talking about the Bible, usually you'll see me and I'm waving the phone. I was like, why is he waving the phone when he's talking about the Bible? Well, it's because that's where I tend to read the Bible. If it's not on the phone, I'm on the computer. A long time ago, I taught myself to read digitally, and I know a lot of people in my generation don't read digitally, but I do. So anyway, find one that's in your format. Now, I've got one right here that I enjoy reading. This is kind of like what they would call a journaling Bible. Now, the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible, which is the one I preach from and the one I study from, for the most part. I study them all, but this is called, their journaling Bible is called the Note-Taking Bible. And you can see it's got the wide margins on the side, places to take notes. I like drawing in my Bibles. I like taking notes. I highlight. My Bibles are all marked up. But find one that's comfortable for you. There's some reading Bibles out there that are really cool, and the CSB has that too. They're called reading Bibles, and they're formatted in a way that help you read through the Bible in a way that is kind of natural to the way that we speak and talk and all that. Those are also good Bibles. I have one of those too, and those are always good. But it doesn't matter. Somebody asked me Sunday, does it matter what translation? No, not really. Not really. I do think there are some translations that are better than others, but just find one that is understandable for you, and just do it. So whether it's on your phone, whether you get a journaling Bible, note-taking Bible, find something, and then let's talk about it. That's been great too. Already, we've had some great conversations here at the Table Church about Bible reading, Bible interpretation, all because we're in this series, God Speaks. And that really is, I think, what Zach and Allison are wanting us to do. Just get us talking. Get us in a conversation about this. So, I know I've been long this morning. I apologize for that. I want to be shorter on these things. Some of you are laughing right now. But anyway, let's talk about this. God speaks. He is speaking. He speaks through his word. It's important. And it's good for us to be doing this on a daily basis. All right. So join us in this journey together, this 30-day journey. And it'll be profitable for all of us. Let's have this conversation. So we'll do this again. We're going to try and do conversations at the table every day. And yesterday, Pastor Nathan over at St. Paul Lutheran in Harlingen, he and I were messing around with some of the software we have. So we're going to do some of these in joint. We'll have a joint devotionals as well, just he and I and you. So this is going to be good. This is great. Anything to get us talking about Jesus, and that really is the most important thing. Jesus is the Word, who has invested himself in the Word, and it really is. It's all about Jesus, and it's about Jesus moving into our lives as he speaks his words of forgiveness, grace, and life to us. That's our conversation at the table. Let me know what you think here on the Facebook page and the YouTube page, and be thinking about how you're going to join the study. And again, if you want the book, we'll make sure you get one. Remember this until next time, that you are absolutely, unconditionally loved by Jesus. Jesus always, always has you.